Did you know that over 60% of Texans say their paycheck runs out before the month does? That's not just a number, it's a warning sign. From grocery store workers to full-time teachers, millions are working 40, even 50 hours a week and still falling behind. They're not living paycheck to paycheck anymore, they're living paycheck to panic. Meanwhile, rent is going up, gas is climbing again, healthcare feels out of reach, and the minimum wage hasn't moved in over a decade. The truth is, for many Texans, working full-time is no longer enough. So why is no one talking about it? Why are so many doing everything right and still struggling to stay afloat? In this video, we're breaking down 10 paycheck problems in Texas that are quietly crushing the working class. Some are hidden, some are ignored, but all of them are real, and if you live here, they probably affect you too. Stay with us, you need to hear this. Number 1. Stagnant wages in a growing economy. Texas has one of the largest and fastest growing economies in the US, booming with oil, tech, real estate, and construction. But here's the catch. While the economy has grown, wages for the average worker haven't kept up. In fact, when you factor in inflation, many Texans are actually earning less in real terms than they were a decade ago. Big companies are posting record profits, but everyday workers are watching their paychecks stretch thinner and thinner every month. According to data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average wage in Texas has risen just 12% over the past 10 years. While the cost of living has jumped over 30% in the same period. That means the essentials like rent, food, insurance, and gas are outpacing people's income. Even skilled workers and college graduates are finding that raises and promotions barely cover the rising bills. This disconnect between the economy's growth and the workers' reality is one of the biggest drivers of financial stress in the state. What does this mean for Texans trying to survive on a single paycheck? It means you're working harder than ever and still falling behind. Some families are now relying on second jobs, side hustles, or credit cards just to make ends meet. Others are cutting back on essentials, like skipping medications, delaying doctor visits, or avoiding basic car repairs. If you felt like no matter how much you work, you're stuck in the same place, you're not alone and it's not your fault. Stagnant wages in a growing economy isn't just an economic issue. It's a crisis of fairness, dignity, and survival. And it's the reason millions of hardworking Texans are now one unexpected bill away from disaster. Number 2, skyrocketing housing costs. You've probably felt it. Rent prices in Texas have exploded, and for many, it's the biggest reason their paycheck disappears before the month ends. Cities like Austin, Dallas, and Houston have seen rent increases of 30% to 50% in just the past few years. In Austin alone, the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment is now over $1,500 a month, and that doesn't include utilities or parking. For someone making $15 an hour, that's nearly 2 full paychecks gone before groceries are even bought. It's not just renters feeling the squeeze. Home prices have also soared, pushing first-time buyers out of the market entirely. And with property taxes on the rise, even long-time homeowners are seeing monthly costs go up, with no raise to match. The result? More people are moving into shared housing, commuting longer distances, or being forced into lower-quality apartments just to afford the rent. And if you think this is only happening in the big cities, think again. Smaller towns like Waco, Killeen, and Odessa are now seeing ripple effects as people flee urban prices. So how does this connect back to your paycheck? When housing eats up 40% to 60% of your monthly income, it leaves little room for anything else. Emergency savings, healthcare, or even just a night out. This housing crisis isn't just about where you live. It's about how you live. Families are being forced to choose between safe neighborhoods or affordability, and seniors on fixed incomes are being priced out of the communities they've lived in for decades. Texas may pride itself on low taxes and business-friendly policies, but for millions, the dream of affordable living is slipping out of reach, one rent hike at a time. Number 3, no statewide minimum wage increase. It might shock you to learn that Texas still uses the federal minimum wage of just $7.25 an hour, a rate that hasn't increased since 2009. That's over 15 years without a raise, even as the cost of living has skyrocketed. Meanwhile, other states like California, $16, Washington, $16.28, and Florida, $12, have all increased their minimum wage to reflect inflation and rising expenses. In Texas, the base wage is stuck in the past, and millions of workers are paying the price. Let's break it down. If you work full-time at $7.25 an hour, you'll earn about $15,000 a year before taxes. That's not even enough to afford a modest one-bedroom apartment in most cities across the state. And we're not just talking about teenagers working part-time. Many Texans earning minimum wage are adults, parents, caregivers, and essential workers, trying to survive on an income that doesn't even come close to covering rent, food, gas, and bills. The math simply doesn't work, and it's forcing families to take on second jobs, rely on government assistance, or fall into debt just to stay afloat. So what's the solution? While some individual cities in other states have implemented local wage increases, Texas law doesn't allow cities to set their own minimum wage, meaning even progressive areas like Austin and Houston are limited in what they can do. Until the state takes action, millions will continue earning wages that no longer reflect reality. If your paycheck feels too small no matter how hard you work, it's not laziness or mismanagement. It's a system stuck in a wage that hasn't moved in over a decade. And until it does, the gap between work and survival will only get wider for Texans trying to live with dignity. We'd love to hear from you. Which of these new laws surprised you the most? Or which one do you think will impact your life directly? Your comment could help someone else in the same situation. So don't hold back. Share your voice below. We put a lot of time and heart into bringing you content that truly matters to seniors and their families. So please, watch our previous video on hidden senior benefits in Texas and support our work by subscribing with just one click. Number 4, lack of affordable health care. Even with a job, many Texans still can't afford to get sick. In fact, Texas has the highest rate of uninsured people in the entire United States, with over 5 million residents lacking health coverage, many of them working full-time. For low and middle-income earners, healthcare is becoming a luxury, not a basic right. Monthly premiums, high deductibles, and out-of-pocket costs are swallowing up paychecks, leaving people with a painful choice. Skip care or skip bills. Imagine making $2,500 a month, only to spend $700 or more on health insurance that still doesn't cover most visits. Now add in prescription costs, dental work, vision exams, and the occasional emergency room trip, and suddenly you're in the red before the month is over. For those with chronic conditions like diabetes or high blood pressure, skipping medication isn't an option, but paying for it might be impossible. And for the uninsured, even a short hospital stay can mean thousands of dollars in debt, pushing families further behind. So what can be done? While Texas leaders have consistently refused to expand Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act, there are still programs available, but most people don't know they exist or how to apply. That's part of the problem. Healthcare should be clear, consistent, and actually accessible to the people who need it most. Until then, even the hardest working Texans will continue to suffer not because they're unwilling to pay, but because their paycheck simply doesn't stretch far enough. This isn't just a financial burden, it's a public health crisis. And it's one of the biggest reasons why so many are just one medical bill away from bankruptcy. Number 5, rising utility and transportation costs. It's not just the big bills like rent and healthcare hurting Texas families. Even basic daily essentials like electricity, water, and gas are now draining paychecks faster than ever. In recent years, utility prices across the state have soared, especially during extreme weather seasons. After the deadly winter storm in 2021, many Texans saw their electricity bills double or even triple, and some providers now offer variable rates that spike without warning. For low and fixed-income households, these swings are financially devastating. Add transportation costs to the mix, and it becomes even harder to make ends meet. Texas cities are built for driving, not walking or public transit. That means most workers rely on their own vehicle just to get to work. But with rising gas prices, high car insurance premiums, and ongoing maintenance costs, simply owning a car is a major monthly expense. For those commuting long distances or working multiple jobs, transportation can easily eat up 15 to 20% of a paycheck, sometimes more than groceries. What does this mean in real life? It means seniors are choosing between keeping the AC running or affording medication. It means parents are turning off lights, skipping meals, or walking to work in the heat just to save a few dollars. And it means any small change, like a broken-down car or a sudden spike in your electric bill, can throw an entire household budget into chaos. These aren't luxury expenses. They're the basics. And for millions of Texans, covering the basics has become a monthly balancing act. Until the system catches up with reality, rising utilities and transportation costs will continue to punish those who are already stretched too thin. Number 6. High childcare expenses. If you're a working parent in Texas, you already know childcare costs can feel like a second rent payment. In some areas, they're even higher. The average cost of full-time daycare for one child in Texas is between $800 to $1,200 per month, depending on the city. That's nearly $14,000 a year, just to ensure your child is safe while you go to work. And it gets even tougher if you have more than one child under 5. For many families, this cost takes up 30% or more of their monthly income, leaving little room for savings, emergencies, or other essential needs. In fact, some parents, especially mothers, are being forced to leave the workforce entirely, not because they want to, but because working full-time doesn't even cover the cost of care. Ironically, the very jobs they leave behind often pay just enough to lose access to benefits, but not enough to afford quality childcare. It's a cycle that keeps hardworking families stuck in survival mode. So what are your options? Government subsidies like the Child Care Services, CCS, program exist, but the waitlists are long, and the income qualifications often leave out struggling middle-class families. Meanwhile, private care options remain out of reach for most Texans. Until lawmakers treat childcare as essential infrastructure, just like roads, schools, and hospitals, parents will continue to bear an impossible burden alone. For many, the question isn't, can I afford daycare? It's, do I work just to pay someone else to raise my child? That's not a real choice. It's a crisis. And it's one of the biggest reasons why even dual-income families are falling behind despite doing everything right. Number 7. Student loan debt pressure. For millions of Texans, the promise of a better future through education came with a heavy cost: student loan debt that won't go away. Today, the average borrower in Texas owes around $33,000, and many are paying hundreds of dollars each month just to cover interest. For teachers, nurses, social workers, and even college grads in business or tech, a large chunk of their paycheck is disappearing into loans that seem to barely shrink, even after years of payments. The real kicker? Most of these borrowers are already working full-time, often in jobs that require a degree, but still don't pay enough to manage basic living expenses plus debt. Combine loan payments with high rent, gas, food, and healthcare, and suddenly there's nothing left for savings or emergencies. Some borrowers have to choose between making their monthly payment or covering groceries, falling behind and wrecking their credit in the process. Even with federal pauses and forgiveness programs being debated, most Texans are still paying every single month. So what can you do? First, make sure you've explored all available repayment options, like income-driven repayment, IDR, plans, or public service loan forgiveness, PSLF, if you work for a qualifying employer. But the bigger truth is this: the system itself is broken. People did exactly what they were told. Go to school, get a degree, work hard, and yet they're now trapped under debt that delays home ownership, starting a family, or saving for retirement. Until meaningful reform happens, student loan debt will remain one of the biggest invisible forces keeping Texans from financial freedom. It's not just about debt. It's about how your paycheck never gets the chance to work for you. Number 8. Unstable gig and contract work. More and more Texans are turning to gig work and contract jobs just to make ends meet. Driving for Uber, delivering food, freelancing online, or working temporary shifts. While these jobs offer flexibility, they also come with a dangerous trade-off. No job security, no benefits, and no guaranteed income. And in today's economy, that instability is crushing for anyone trying to survive on a single paycheck. Unlike traditional employment, gig workers don't receive health insurance, paid time off, or unemployment benefits. If they get sick or their car breaks down, they lose income immediately. Many don't even make minimum wage after factoring in gas, maintenance, and unpaid wait time. And because they're classified as independent contractors, they're also responsible for self-employment taxes, meaning their take-home pay is even lower than it seems. On paper, they may look self-employed. In reality, they're often working harder for less financial stability than ever. This shift toward gig and contract labor is affecting more than just drivers and freelancers. Industries like education, healthcare, tech, and construction are hiring more temporary workers instead of offering full-time positions with benefits. That means more Texans are living in a constant state of financial uncertainty, never knowing how much they'll earn next month or if they'll still have work. If your paycheck varies wildly from week to week, it's almost impossible to plan for rent, food, or emergencies. Gig work isn't just a side hustle anymore. It's become a survival strategy in a broken system. And for millions, it's a paycheck that comes with all the risk and none of the reward. Number 9, wage theft and unpaid overtime. You show up, you put in the hours, you work hard. But what if you're not getting paid what you're owed? It's happening more than you think. Wage theft is a silent crisis in Texas, and it's affecting thousands of workers every day, especially in industries like construction, hospitality, retail, and home care. From unpaid overtime to missing breaks and illegal paycheck deductions, many Texans are being cheated out of the money they've rightfully earned. Texas has some of the weakest labor protections in the country, and that makes it easier for bad employers to cut corners. Some don't pay for extra hours worked, classify full-time employees as contractors to avoid benefits, or simply refuse to issue final paychecks. And because many workers don't know their rights or fear retaliation, they never speak up. The result? Billions of dollars in stolen wages every year, while families go hungry and bills pile up. It's not just unethical, it's illegal. But without enforcement, it continues. So what can you do if you think you're a victim? First, track your hours and keep copies of your pay stubs. If something doesn't add up, don't ignore it. You can file a complaint with the Texas Workforce Commission or connect with legal aid organizations that specialize in labor rights. Even if you're undocumented, you still have rights under the law. Wage theft isn't a minor issue. It's a major reason why so many hardworking Texans are still stuck in financial quicksand. Until there's stronger enforcement and real consequences for employers, workers will keep losing income. Not because they didn't work hard enough, but because the system allowed their pay to be quietly taken. Number 10, lack of financial literacy and support programs. One of the biggest yet least talked about paycheck problems in Texas is this: most people were never taught how to manage money in the first place. From high school to adulthood, financial education is rarely prioritized, leaving millions of Texans to figure out budgeting, credit, taxes, and debt through trial and error. And when money's tight, one mistake can spiral into overdraft fees, mounting debt, and long-term financial stress. While there are state and community programs that offer assistance, like rental help, food subsidies, utility relief, and credit counseling, many people don't even know they exist. The few resources available are often buried under complex applications, long wait lists, or outdated websites. And without guidance on how to access them, struggling workers fall through the cracks. The result? People continue living paycheck to paycheck, not just because of low wages or high expenses, but because the tools to break that cycle are hidden or hard to reach. So what can help? First, there needs to be a push for state-funded financial literacy programs, starting in schools and continuing into adult education. Second, Texas must improve outreach and simplify access to existing support services. If you're struggling, don't wait. Contact your local community action agency, nonprofits, or credit unions, many of which now offer free financial coaching. Remember, you're not bad with money. No one ever showed you how to be good with it, and that's not your fault. The system thrives when people are uninformed. But the moment you start learning how to manage and protect your paycheck, even in small steps, you begin taking that power back. And that's where real change begins. So there you have it, 10 real paycheck problems that are keeping millions of hardworking Texans stuck in survival mode. From stagnant wages and sky-high rent to student loan debt, childcare costs, and lack of support programs, these issues aren't just numbers or political talking points. They're the lived reality of families, workers, seniors, and even college graduates, doing everything right but still falling behind. The truth is, this isn't just about money, it's about dignity. It's about feeling like you've worked a full week, only to still worry about groceries, rent, or whether your car will break down tomorrow. It's about a system where the cost of living keeps rising, but your paycheck doesn't. And while there's no magic fix, awareness is the first step toward change. When we talk about these issues, we shine a light on what's broken and start to build pressure for what needs to be fixed. If this video opened your eyes, made you feel seen, or gave you something to think about, don't stop here. Your voice matters. Share your story in the comments. What's been the biggest paycheck challenge for you in Texas? You never know who you might help just by speaking up.